Well, hello everyone. Thanks for popping in to get to know a little bit more about SoundExchange. And then if we have some time at the end, we might be able to take some questions. But we're gonna jump into a little bit of a deep dive. SoundExchange is having an extremely exciting year. We're celebrating 20 years. So for our 20th anniversary, I wanted to kick off with a little video.
To rock right now. Best believe we all gonna get down. Crank it.
We are proud to represent the entire music industry, making sure everyone gets paid.
And SoundExchange make sure I get mine on time, you understand that? I suggest you get some bread from them too.
We're the largest global neighboring rights organization in the world, and the only one that makes regular monthly payments to artists.
We only discovered it in the last year, and we're like, oh, this is really great.
And the mobile app allows creators on-the-go access and alternative payment partnerships.
The fact that they're paying is really great.
Our sound recording database is the best in the business because we turn data into revenue. SoundExchange is setting global music industry data standards and improving data through strategic alliances and advocacy.
It's definitely about getting paid and not getting played.
Our SX Works Global Publisher Services division bridges the gap between sound recording and music publishing. SX Works leverages the combination of SoundExchange's authoritative ISRC and sound recording data and CMRRA's extensive musical works database. Creators deserve to be paid for their work, and SoundExchange's efforts have led to dramatic royalty rate increases over the last 20 years.
Let's keep streaming and streaming para que estamos en chain o dead on whack.
SoundExchange is the voice of the industry in Washington and beyond. We represent the rights of creators everywhere.
They stand up for me and all of artists' rights.
The music industry is always changing. With AI, Web3, and other emerging technologies, the industry will continue to change. And SoundExchange will be there to ensure that artists are paid fairly.
Thank you all for the work you do. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Sean.
We've been powering the future of music for more than 20 years, and we're just getting started.
So I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Tiara Guy. I'm the Associate Director of Industry Relations and Marketing Operations at SoundExchange, and I've had the pleasure of being a part of SoundExchange for 13 of the last 20 years. So I'm excited to be here with you all today. And again, it represents 20 years of connecting creators to their royalties and advocating on their behalf. And we'll get into a lot of this in more detail through the presentation. Educating the music industry, like things I'm doing here today. Technological advances, things with metadata and our portal features and more things that we're able to offer the industry, which again, I'll touch on throughout this presentation. And global data standards, as well as removing friction from things that we experience in this industry, especially around metadata. And SoundExchange is powering the future of music, trying to make things better, easier, more efficient, more fair across the board for everyone. So just a couple quick facts to pull out of that video that you just saw. SoundExchange has distributed $10 billion this year, which is extremely exciting. That's nearly $1 billion a year now. And we represent more than 650,000 different creators. That's growing every day. We represent over 3,600 different digital streaming media services that use the compulsory license that we administer. And we partner with over 50 different territories around the world where we have reciprocal agreements in place, again, which I'll touch on more. So as far as exactly what SoundExchange covers, if you don't know, we're specifically covering featured performers and sound recording copyright owners anytime they're streamed through cable, internet, or satellite radio. But it's important to understand that that's only in the non-interactive digital streaming space. So services like SiriusXM, Pandora's non-interactive tier, the Music Choice cable stations. It can't be audio-visual, and you can't be able to queue up exactly what you want to hear. So that excludes Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music. So I also want to specify that for featured performers, a lot of people might assume that SoundExchange only covers music and singers and musicians, but we also cover spoken word and comedy. So it's important to understand all the different types of creators that we represent. So as far as how the money is split once it comes in through our door from the service, 50% goes to the sound recording copyright owner, typically a record label, but as we're here at Indie Week this week, obviously there's, labels, but also artists who own their own masters. 45% goes directly to the featured performers on the recording, and then 5% of everything that comes through our door is sent to the unions, AFM and SAG-AFTRA, on behalf of non-featured background vocalists, session musicians, and that's across the board, whether you've used them on the recording or not, and that's according to the statute that we operate under by law. So. AFM and SAG-AFTRA have their own distribution process. So if you are non-featured or a session musician, you would get set up directly with them for your royalty distribution. Okay, so how you actually get set up with SoundExchange to receive your royalty. You have to register. SoundExchange is nonprofit. It's free to register. You think of registration as a way to set up your payment place. The way you'll do this is through our online portal, directly through our website. We do offer our online registration in Spanish, and we're hoping to be able to offer it in more languages in the future. But this is how you're going to set up a new account. You won't use the online registration to update an existing account. You also wouldn't use the online registration, again, if you're a session musician or non-featured performer, or if you represent an estate or you're an heir of a performer who's passed. We require additional paperwork for that, and so you wouldn't be able to just utilize the online registration because there's several more documents we need in that case, and that button would lead you to contacting us for that estate packet. So when you start the registration process, you'll kind of create your profile on the path that you need to take while you go through it. You're either registering yourself or on behalf of someone else. If you're registering on behalf of someone else, the major difference is that we require an authorization form, where if we're talking about the artist side, the performer has to actually authorize you as their representative on the account so that you can register on their behalf. That means that you can register on their behalf, however, the payment still has to be made to the performer as an individual or to a company that they wholly own. You will be uploading this authorization form as part of the process, and then you'll be selecting which profile or profiles you need as part of the registration. So are you registering as a performer, as a sound recording copyright owner, or as both? So with registration, like I said, you think of it as creating your payment place. So once you pick your profile and kind of the path you need, you're going to be setting up how you want to get paid through SoundExchange. We have several different ways. There are physical checks in the mail if you're just comfortable, kind of supplying a mailing address, or we do direct deposit. SoundExchange is one of the few CMOs that have monthly payments, so you can set up for direct deposit. We also have Cash App and Zelle, and we'll be rolling out some more options to make it much more convenient as well very soon here. But so you'll be setting up your payment place and what profile, and then I'll jump into kind of the next step. But you have to be prepared to kind of be able to set up how you want to receive that payment. And again, on the artist side, it's strict in that it has to go directly to the performer or a company that they wholly own. And again, I know we're talking rights owners this week, but if you are interested on the artist side, if it's a band, they can register as individuals and claim their percentage, or if they have a collective or an LLC that they own together, they can register for 100% to go through that company. But we need all the performer information for who gets paid through that company. So, okay. If you submit the registration, you are now covered for US domestic royalty collection through SoundExchange. If you take the additional step of becoming a member, which once you submit, the registration will roll into membership, then you can authorize SoundExchange to collect international royalties on your behalf as well. So SoundExchange has the lowest domestic admin in the world, admin rate in the world, and we have one of the most competitive on the international side in the world. So we're constantly negotiating new agreements in different territories. Like I said, we represent over 50 different territories right now. You can view a full list of every territory that we have an agreement with on our website. You can see if it's for the performer side, the rights owner side, or for both. And again, we're constantly adding more. We have a brand new VP of International who started with us. We're really excited, and it's just really beefing up stuff on our international side. Again, SoundExchange has monthly payments, and anytime we get an international payment from another collection management organization, we're paying it out as quickly as possible. And, you know, SoundExchange, I'm going to cover this a little bit too, but letters of direction, we're one of the few collection management organizations that have a letter of direction process. So for those of you who don't know what an LOD is, a featured artist can use it to allocate a percentage of their featured artist portion to a creative participant on the recording. So like a producer, mixer, or engineer, they can allocate a percentage of their royalty to that participant. And so they have to be registered with SoundExchange directly for us to honor that letter of direction. Did you have a question? Mm-hmm. So an LLC is in referring to a company that they own? So if like a band is getting paid through an LLC, can they submit a letter of direction? Is that your question? They can, as long as every performer signs off on the letter of direction. So yeah, if you're a band and you want to pay a producer for certain recordings, each performer has to sign off on that letter of direction that makes up that band. Or if they've authorized a manager or lawyer or someone as an LOD signatory, and all of the performers have authorized that person or company as an LOD signatory, then just that person's signature would suffice for the LOD. So good question. The other really great thing about international collection through SoundExchange is we won't lock you into a term agreement. It's very flexible. You can expand the mandate, limit the mandate at any time. And so, you know, you're not locked in for like a year or 5 years. So you can kind of see, you know, if you're happy with our services, if there's things that we can be doing better to maximize your collection. But we have some of the best metadata in the world. We're going to do everything we can to maximize that international collection. Yes? We just might not have negotiated an agreement in that territory yet. That doesn't mean we don't want to and that we're not currently in negotiations. So great question, and it's also something I can say was brought up to our VP of International after this. But our hope is, obviously, we want to be able to strike an agreement in as many territories as we want, or as we can. And so we definitely want to be in those spaces. We just might not have struck an agreement yet. But the way the reciprocal agreements kind of work is once we do have an agreement, they'll collect for our artists or rights owners, we'll collect for theirs, and then swap the money. But different CMOs have different payment schedules. You know, some pay out once a year, some pay out twice a year, and it kind of depends. And sometimes we really have to like chase the money, you know, if a certain territory isn't paying it out quick enough. And so there's a lot of different layers and nuances depending on which territory and what we're dealing with. So, okay, so once you're registered, you're going to receive a welcome email that should include a link for you to create your login for our online portal, which is called SX Direct. And this is our 24/7 self-service portal. Our hope is to be able to provide, you know, as many features and things for you to use to be, you know, navigating through your account, getting the information you need, and, you know, being able to get everything you need without having to call us. That being said, we have a wonderful customer care team that's available, you know, Monday through Friday, like 9 through 6. The wait time is incredibly low to get on the phone with someone directly at SoundExchange, so we're very proud about that. But we want you to be able to self-service because, you know, you don't want to have to pick up the phone or email somebody for every single thing you need. So as far as who has access to this portal, when you supply your contact information through the registration process, the email address that you provide becomes kind of the primary contact. If you were authorized by, you know, the performers or whatever, you're the authorized contact is going to be your email address. So you'll create your login, and when you get into the portal, you'll be able to see every account that you represent that your email is associated to. Now, while there can only be one primary contact on every account, there can be up to 50 guests on an account. The major difference being that the primary contact has the ability to edit payment information. So guests cannot edit the payment information. However, if you grant them view with repertoire privileges when you add them as a guest, they can help claim recordings on behalf of the account. So with a lot of larger companies, especially, again, rights owners that are here this week, if you have a general email address for your label, just SoundExchange@label.com, let's say, and you have multiple people at the company who have access to that email, then they can log in and be able to see the account and be able to make claims on behalf of your label. So you could do that with multiple guest accounts and adding, individual people, but you can also consider that general email address. Because sometimes with like turnover at companies and things, then you have to worry about updating the contact information because you get locked out of the email. So something to think about, but it's really easy to instantly add a guest contact, and then they have their own login to the portal. So once you're in, like I said, you have a dashboard. It's going to kind of show you all the accounts that your email address is associated to, and so that you can kind of click through and, make the claims you need to or check statements. But it will also, if you have an artist profile or a performer profile, it'll show you membership status, which it will also do for you as a rights owner. So you'll be able to see if you are enrolled. Some people get confused because they're registered and they're collecting US royalties through SoundExchange, but when they log into the portal, it says not enrolled. That is referring to membership and international collection specifically. So if you click the not enrolled, it will take you to that membership step where you sign an agreement that could authorize SoundExchange to collect international royalties. And then there's a mandate that says, do you want US only? Do you want worldwide? Which would encompass all the agreements that we have in place. Or you can completely customize. So maybe you just want collection in certain territories. It's completely customizable. And like I said, you can limit or expand that at any point. And that's all on this membership layer. So definitely the biggest tool that I think is one of the greatest parts of our portal is called Search and Claim. And this is how you actually claim recordings so that you can link them to your account for payment. So when you go, there's like a My Catalog tab. It will say Search and Claim. You're able to search by title, artist, ISRC code, or album. It will search our entire database of recordings, either that were reported by a licensee using our license, or that was uploaded directly by a sound recording copyright owner. So you can do that search of our system, you select the recordings that you want to claim, you add them to the cart, and then you let us know what percentage you want to claim, and then you submit. Now, if you're a sound recording copyright owner, the process is the same. However, in addition to the percentage that you're claiming, we're going to ask for the date range that you're claiming. Obviously, the performer on a particular recording is never going to change. Once that voice or that music is laid down, that is that version of that recording forever. But on the rights owner side, it can be bought, sold, licensed. So we require you to supply that information as well. We have inception and perpetuity buttons if you've always owned it and plan on always owning it. But then you can put in customized dates for collection. The other thing we will ask sound recording copyright owners to do is supply metadata. You can imagine, so number one, metadata is the worst thing I think that we experience as an industry. And it's the most efficient way for us to be able to get paid and for these royalties to go out, appropriately. And there's no stringent laws around the quality of the data that these licensees have to send to us for us to be able to pay out. So a lot of times there can be missing pieces of information, there can be misspellings, there can be variations of the same recording. So SoundExchange asks the sound recording copyright owners to A, upload their recordings directly to us, but B, if they're claiming through Search and Claim, if they see a version of a recording that's available to claim that's missing pieces of metadata, we're going to ask you to supply it. Like if you have the ISRC code, if it's a misspelling or the title is wrong or the album is missing, we're going to ask for you to supply that data. So that will be another thing when you're claiming just on the rights owner side, we'll ask you to do. And you can match it to a recording that you might already be getting paid for, or it could be a new claim and it's just missing information that you're supplying. But this is a really important step that we ask for directly from the sound recording copyright owners. You'll know that the recordings have been processed and linked to your account for payment because then they will show up under associated recordings. And if you were to go back to the search and claim tool and you did the same search, the recording should no longer show up. Once you claim it and it's linked to your account, it won't show up in search and claim. So that's also important to recognize because sometimes I get calls like, why isn't one of our biggest tracks like in search and claim for me to claim? It's like, well, did you check your associated recordings? It might already be linked for payment, in which case it usually is. So then, like I mentioned, submitting sound recordings directly to us. So SoundExchange prefers this because obviously we know that the sound recording copyright owners are going to be invested in the metadata being as accurate as possible. So this is the only way we'll ask, like, please submit it directly to us. If you are a performer only and don't have a rights owner profile, the submit a recording tab won't even show up for you. But you have the ability to submit 1 or 2 releases at a time, or if you have hundreds or thousands, we have a bulk upload feature, which will be kind of a massive spreadsheet, but allows you to submit all your recordings at once. You have an upload history that you can refer back to, so you know when you submitted, if you need to just submit new projects moving forward. But this allows you to kind of keep track and have that history to look back on. And we also use this submission the entries you kind of make here to build an ISRC database that we make available to the public on our website. So SoundExchange kind of saw that there was no central place in the industry for you to go and search for an ISRC code, so we built it. It's available on our website, and all the information we compile directly from sound recording copyright owners is searchable in that ISRC database. Okay, so overlaps and disputes. This is another thing I probably get a lot of calls and questions about from rights owners specifically. So you can imagine that sometimes there's multiple claims made on the same recording, and many times it equals more than 100%. And we can't pay out more than 100% claims. So for the rights owners, we're able to offer this tool in the portal. On the performer side, we're not yet able to offer this feature in the portal, but we're hoping to be able to do it in the future. That being said, on the artist side, we do have an artist resolutions team that's dealing with it directly. But for rights owners, you're able to do this in the portal, which is awesome. So if you have any overlaps and disputes, this tab will show up. If you don't have any recordings in overlap and dispute, you won't even see the tab. So the tab will show up if you have any recordings in overlap and dispute. You'll be able to see exactly who the other claimants are making a claim on the recording. You'll be able to see the percentage, the date range, and where the overlap is. At that point, you have the option to either maintain your claim as is, relinquish it because maybe you made the claim by mistake, or edit it. Perhaps you had the date wrong or the percentage wrong and you need to just make a quick change. This tool has been incredible. It's resolved so many overlaps really quickly. It's very visual. It allows you to have a really quick snapshot on the recordings that are problematic. SoundExchange sends an automated email weekly to remind you that you have recordings in overlap or dispute. I recommend checking spam folders or things like that if you're not getting that email, because a lot of people will claim that they didn't get the emails and they wonder why there was a huge debit made on their account. So when someone makes a new claim that triggers an overlap, you have 90 days to respond. If you do not respond at all to the overlap, you automatically relinquish and it goes in favor of the other claimant. So a lot of people are like, I didn't know, I didn't see the emails, and maybe it was in their spam folder. So then if you meant to maintain and you didn't mean to let it expire and to relinquish, you have to go through search and claim and completely start the claiming process again. So those emails are very important. You'll get it weekly, like I said. It will have a hyperlink to the recordings that you can view directly in the portal that you need to address, or if there's any action required. Now, if the claimants on both sides maintain their claims and it stays in an overlap, stage, then it moves to dispute. When it moves to dispute, we place the recording on hold. We provide contact information to all the claimants, that are involved with this recording, and we ask you to figure it out and let us know how it should pay out. SoundExchange doesn't interpret agreements or contracts, but we will provide the contact information. We can provide certain mediation to help you get through it, but otherwise, basically it's up to the claimants to figure it out and tell us what they agree on moving forward in order for us to resolve the hold and resume those payments. Yes?
Is that the final stage in conflict
Essentially, yes, but I think that if there's not response from one of the claimants or something after a certain amount of time, we might be able to revisit it.
It's not that the issue is with really old tracks that don't have ISRCs associated with them. There's no way to prove it's from 2002, for instance. You dispute.
Yeah, I think that's the most difficult layer of it. And there are a few people here this week that I recommend you sitting who are really the experts about that and overlaps and disputes who, if you want to have a conversation with, I'm happy to connect you with here. But yeah, the ones, again, that this is kind of addressing the lack of metadata when we don't have enough information to identify the iteration of the recording in question, and there could be multiple versions of the same recording, it does get really complicated working out ownership. So yeah, we're happy to discuss that further and get into that process with the experts at SoundExchange. A couple of them are here this week. So feel free to come get my information after this, and I can make sure to connect you to get as much information on that as possible. I also wanted to mention that we do have a mobile app now, and we're constantly adding new features and developments in the mobile app to make it easier on the road to like be viewing statements and being able to claim recordings, hopefully, and a lot of things that we want to be able to allow you to do more easily and be more flexible, because we understand like people are touring, they're running around doing things, and we want to make that as easy as possible. And I also wanted to touch on advocacy. For those who don't know, SoundExchange is headquartered in Washington, D.C. We have a whole government affairs and global public policy team. And SoundExchange is a part of the Copyright Royalty Board rate proceedings. We're constantly fighting for higher rates for the services to pay to creators and sound recording copyright owners, because we believe they wouldn't have their business without, the recordings that these creators are making and putting out. So we're constantly fighting for those higher rates. The video kind of covered that we've had some major successes in those rates increasing in the last several years. And I'm sure a lot of people in this room know, but there's no terrestrial right in the United States. We're one of 4 countries in the world that doesn't pay featured performers and rights owners when their music is played through terrestrial, FM radio. And so SoundExchange is always supporting legislation around getting that performance right in the US. It does affect our members, around the world, because not every territory grants national treatment, which is basically reciprocating that royalty regardless of citizenship. Some territories are kind enough to do it, even though the US doesn't have that reciprocal right. But there are other territories who say, the US doesn't pay out on this, why should we, even if we collected this on behalf of that artist? They're American, there's no right there. And so, that is not fair, from SoundExchange's perspective, and we're gonna be constantly, fighting to pass that right in this country and get creators the billions of dollars that are being left on the table. So that being said, we ask artists and rights owners who are passionate about this issue, please connect with us. We'd love to partner with you on ways to contact Congress people and, whether it's writing a letter or making a phone call or going to the Hill as we introduce legislation and, bring this issue to the forefront. But that's kind of advocacy at SoundExchange and the current things that we're fighting for. Okay, so this QR code will kind of link to a document that will give you some helpful blog posts and links to things that I've kind of covered, throughout the presentation. It'll have information for our industry relations team. We do have members all around the country, people in LA, Nashville, Miami, New York, and so we'd love for you to get connected with us. We'd love to have a direct relationship with you. Feel free to reach out to our team anytime if you have questions, if you need things expedited, anything we can do to help. But I hope you found this helpful. I will see if anybody else has other questions and do my best to answer it. Yes.
I have a couple questions. I run a label. We have a few hundred songs in our catalog. For the last several years, our distributor was authorized to collect on our behalf, and that is ending.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to make sure that the bulk of our catalog is registered in one process rather than having to go song by song or artist by artist?
Yes, there is. I mean, the search and claim tool is certainly great. You can bulk claim through that. We prefer it that way, but yeah, you can apply, you can select all on a page. You can apply a percentage in bulk, to a list of recordings. So there are ways to kind of make bulk claims through there. I do think there are exercises we could do, and certainly we want to make it as easy as possible. So if you want to contact me directly, but I do think we try to make the search and claim tool as easy as possible. Again, you'll have like, you'll be able to kind of see that everything's in place, get those dates, the way you need them to be. So that's probably the preferred method, but we're happy to work with you if you want to do it a different way, because then we're getting into spreadsheets and things like that. So the tool is really lovely and will allow you to bulk claim.
My other question is, when I'm working with artists to make sure that they're registered properly, sometimes we'll find discrepancies where the song has been collected on for a while. Are your collections retroactive, and how far back?
Great question, and I should have adjusted earlier. Yes, so royalties are retroactive for up to 3 years. Any other questions? Wonderful. Well, again, I would love to say hi to anybody. Feel free to take my contact information. Thanks for making the time, and hopefully you found it helpful.